So Jacqueline, you're one of our people who have applied for the hot seat. So in a minute or so, I'd love to hear your story. What's been the greatest challenge that you're faced with today?
The challenge that I had put in the application was that my mum died 4 months ago. She had been short of breath and feeling short of breath, went to get a checkup and was advised to go to the hospital just to be on the safe side. And it was there that they discovered that she had actually had a heart attack and she was admitted to hospital straight away. It was recommended that she have a triple coronary bypass, and she underwent that procedure, and we had a phone call to say that everything had gone well. And then about 2 hours later, we received another phone call to say that there had been complications and she was now fighting for her life. We then spent the next 2 weeks in a dance with the hospital. We called every 2 hours to get updates on how she was doing. And it turns out then that she had had a massive stroke and several small strokes. And the extent of the damage was only discovered at the end of this kind of 2 weeks when she wasn't responding to coming off medication, the sedation. So at this point, they advised us to transition to end of life care, where they would take all life support off. And so the challenge for me was the process in which the way in which she died, and the smells in the hospital room. For her last week of her life, we were allowed entry into the hospital to be with her, and it was the smells from her wounds and the noises that they were making. And although as a result of the stroke where she couldn't move, couldn't talk, she was consciously aware of what was unfolding, and the decision to end her life or to take her off life support it was traumatic knowing all this at the time.
Thank you for coming and participating in the hot seat today. So the Demartini Method is an opportunity to equilibrate emotions and to transcend them so that you can come to a state of gratitude and love. So you've shared, well, do you want to just do one more time what's been going on what's the biggest charge about the way that your mum died? What's been the biggest challenge for you there?
The shock, I say the word trauma. At the time, I remember being so focused and present and wanting to experience everything, every part of it, every emotion. And now I feel I'm slowly withdrawing from my business, from relationships, from friendships, in a numbness, because I feel so traumatized by the way in which she died, the fact that she was aware. And I have worked the method on certain aspects of it, the benefits of being able to have the conversation with her.
Yeah, that's okay. So for the 2 weeks that your mum was in intensive care and dying, what was it about the way she died that upset you the most?
It was the not knowing. The 2 weeks that she was in intensive care, we had to phone them every 2 hours because we weren't allowed access to the hospital. Mm-hmm. So we had to constantly be phoning for an update to find out how. It was a car crash. Her heart, her kidneys, everything was failing. So the brain hadn't even been mentioned at this point. So it was the living from minute to minute almost. At this point in those 2 weeks.
Okay, so let's look at it from before she died, or when she first had the shortness of breath and had the heart attack. How did you know? What did you know? So rather than saying that you didn't know, there was so much you didn't know, what did you know then?
When she was in the hospital for the 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm. What did you...
I knew that I knew the road we were on. I knew it was very unlikely that she was going to be able to survive in any.
So I want you to get really present with that you
Yes.
knew that was unlikely that she was going to survive.
Yeah.
So you're certain of that?
Yeah.
So you knew?
Yeah.
What else did you know?
I knew that in some level that this was the way for her as well.
So I want you to get present in that moment where you knew that this was the way for her. So get present in that. What do you mean?
Prior to all of this happening, my mum had really struggled with living a life that was hers, putting boundaries in, being all that she wanted to be. And we had had so many discussions over the last few years about different struggles that she had. And when this was all happening, and I was being contacted by friends as well, supported from different Demartini strands, and even the own reading I was doing in terms of what was unfolding, strokes, heart attacks, what this meant about her life and the difficulty that she had in actually becoming something that she didn't really want. Her identity was so wrapped up in giving, being a nurse. And for her to try and reclaim some of that, she felt stuck in her life. I knew this. We had spoken about this. So at the same time as knowing that this was the way it was unfolding for her, and part of me does believe that, yeah, this was the perfect ending for her.
So what's been the benefit then of the way that she died? How has it served her the way, like not being able to move, not being able to speak? What was the benefit to her of dying that way?
She couldn't look after anybody. She couldn't try and do more for people. She couldn't.
So what could
do
she
anything.
do for the last 2 weeks of her life? What could she do instead?
She had to be the full receiver of the love that everybody had for her. She didn't have to try and make it about her giving to them. She couldn't do that.
I want you to get really I want you to get really present with that then. For the last 2 weeks of her life, the fullness of her getting to feel totally taken care of in every sense.
Yeah.
Would that have been filling of her cup?
Yes. Her faith in nursing was restored as a woman who had been in nursing for 50 years. She had become very disheartened by the standard of care that she was witnessing in the community, and the care that she received in intensive care was phenomenal. These nurses were her family.
And so what was the benefit of her being able to reconnect with her life's purpose, which has been 50 years of nursing, and have that rekindled just before you pass? What does that help? How does that help her to see her life differently?
To understand the impact, the legacy that she has left for the families that she cared for.
Would that have been important to her?
Yes. And that torch is carried by other women who are as committed and as passionate about looking after people when they are sick and dying with dignity. And that's what she received. And it was what she lived her life by. It was a value, a principle, a priority for her, was to have people seen and looked after with dignity.
Yeah. What else was the benefit in the way that she died? Because if she can't move, if she can't speak, what can she do instead?
She can listen.
She can listen. And what else can she do instead?
When she just came off life support, she was able to maintain eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
So she was able to really have that connection.
That soul to soul connection.
That soul to soul connection.
You don't have anything else but that. What's the benefit to her of having an eye to eye, a heart to heart connection with you before she passed?
Because that's what fed her soul. She loved connection. She loved to be with people that she loved, and to be able to connect with them in such a way that just in a normal day you'd feel slightly uncomfortable, because you would be wanting to sit beside you too close, or stare into your eyes, or just look at you and touch you. And that intensity that she had, the love that she had, it was all there in those looks. And my brother couldn't, he was in Dubai, he couldn't travel because of the travel restrictions, so he was on Zoom, and we were able to put the headphones in her ear so that they had the privacy, and we held the screen up over her face so that they also had that.
He also had that, because that transcends space.
Yes.
The eye to eye, heart to heart moment.
Yes.
So are you certain in that moment that your mum had that was important to her, to have that level of connection with her children before she passed?
Yes.
Great. Does she also get to feel you?
Yes.
And what's the benefit in that?
My mum, and I can't speak for how other people feel about their mothers. I believe my mum is a soulmate of mine. To be able to be with her, she knew I was there, and for her to know that I was there reassured her and just gave her the joy and the peace I'd like to think that she needed to pass over in that last week when she came off life support.
So you like to think, or you definitely know?
I definitely know.
So Jacqueline, what would have been what would you have wished and hoped her death and passing would have been like instead?
I've thought about this many times. And I can't say I have a wish, like I wish she would have grown old gracefully and passed away in her sleep at 90 years old. And I know that that's not the way it is. It's the perception I have around the trauma that she suffered with the wounds. Although she, by that point, with the painkillers, her wounds were becoming necrotic, because when you go into end of life, they don't treat you for any infection, they manage the pain. And so what stays with me is the smell from the wound. And from that type of heart surgery, your chest is opened and closed, and as she was dying and I had my head beside her, the wound, there's like
there's a smell.
Yep. There's a smell.
Yeah. So let's look at that first then, because that was a component we haven't. So how did it serve you to have your senses activated, your smell and your hearing activated, when you're close to your mum as she's passing?
Because I got to smell her as well, her skin,
Mm-hmm.
her perfume. And every sense was heightened, everything. I was super alert.
And what was the benefit then in that moment? So alert also means present too.
Yes.
So what was the benefit of being truly present in that moment?
That I was with her fully,
You were
open-hearted.
you
I
were
was with her in that moment. I was so present.
You were what?
I was with her. I was with her.
You were
Like
what?
I was with her.
You were with her.
I was with her.
You were with her. You had someone with her as she passed.
Yes.
And what was the benefit of having someone with her in those moments?
She was so loved in those moments and honoured and cherished. And we whispered words of love to her as she took her last breath, and she left this world surrounded by love.
And you were with her. The family was with her.
Yes.
So what would have been the drawback then, Jacqueline, in that moment had you not smelt and heard the sounds that you did?
If I had not smelled and heard those sounds and noises, I would not have also have been able to smell her and hear her, the tiny nuanced, the changes in her breathing that indicated we were approaching the very last breaths. So I was so tuned, I was so waiting for it because I was so on alert. And if I hadn't, I would have missed that.
Oh. So can you thank your mum for giving off a smell and a sound so that she could ensure that her daughter was truly present with the moment that she passed?
Yes.
She is the captain of her soul. She is the master of her destiny. In life and in death. And how amazing that she had the ability to use her body to just give you extra signals to make sure that you could be really truly present with that moment. So when you think of that smell and sound now, how does it feel?
It feels different. I'm no longer terrified or repulsed by the presence of them. And they were all part of it.
Yeah. So my question for you is, although this isn't a Demartini Method question, it's more my question. So why now? Why now do you believe that your mum, or 4 months ago, why did she choose to pass then?
I believe that for whatever reason she was here, whatever lesson that she had to learn in this lifetime about letting go of control and the need to control, I believe that she learned that, and that for her circumstances that she was in, she didn't then have to spend years or time fighting to become a version of herself that she thought she had to be. She was exactly who she was meant to be. The way that she lived, the values and her priorities, she honoured them, but she fought them towards the end because she felt that she should have. And she doesn't have to do that anymore.
So out of curiosity then, what would have been the drawback had she not had the complications then, and of the open heart surgery, and she had continued to live her life?
The drawbacks, if she had continued to live her life, she would have continued to put her needs, she would have continued to struggle to put her needs before other people's. She would have continued to serve other people and have the resentment about doing that. She would have come home to an environment that she found tense, that she co-created the feelings of resentment in that house, in that environment. And she wasn't happy. She was happy. She was torn. This struggle between who she thought she should be and who she actually was. And that struggle was hard for her. And if the surgery had gone the way it was supposed to have done, then those struggles would have continued. She would have continued to feel torn about who she was and why she was here and what her responsibilities actually were.
So what was the benefit then that it was 2 weeks between the time that she had the surgery and then passed?
Those 2 weeks were a gift because it allowed myself, my father, my sister to pull together, and my brother from Dubai. Our family knotted together in a way that it hasn't done for a long, long time. We had the opportunity to start getting the idea in her head of where this was going. She wasn't just taken from us. She didn't just drop dead.
Yeah, that there was a process. You could have the time to process it and spend with her.
Yes.
Before she passed.
We had a chance to think about anything that we have ever wanted to say to her and have the opportunity to say it and trust that there was nothing left unsaid.
And did you get that opportunity so that there was nothing left unsaid?
There was nothing left unsaid.
Nothing left unsaid. So can you be grateful then for the 2 extra weeks that you had with her so you could get everything and tell her everything that you felt?
Yes. Yes. Family was her highest value. And she was transferred from the ICU to our local hospital to die the last few days. And when she come off everything. And I was allowed to stay in the hospital overnight with her. And I didn't leave for the last 3 days of her life. And the hospital commented on how loving her family was because we were there. They also managed to sneak in her brothers and sisters to say goodbye to her, which in a COVID environment is very difficult. So, her values as I see them now.
I mean, she obviously magnetizes that to her because she was able to transcend authority, even though she couldn't move and do anything. She could still get her way.
Yeah, a lot of she was known in that hospital, so we had nurses coming in to visit or calling to the room to see her, to pay their respects because they knew her professionally.
Wow, so she even hung on enough so that she could go back to the hospital that people knew her at.
Yes.
Because that was important to her.
That was important to her.
So are you certain of the perfection then of her life and also the way that she died? To have her family being drawn in and being able to see her and all the people that she spent 50 years who were her other family.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I can now. I hadn't before.
So let's check in. There was one extra thing that you said at the very beginning was that you were shocked that your mum, how was that not true? Where did you actually know that your mum wasn't doing well physically even before this happened?
My mum has struggled with her weight her whole life. And we're from Scotland, and heart disease is rife in Scotland. It's a socio-economic thing as well with the lifestyle. And my mum has battled with her weight her whole life. The past few years, she has maintained a healthy weight, but in the past that has not always been the case. So the minute we went down this road of discovering the severity of the heart disease in her arteries, it was no great shock, I suppose.
You suppose, or you suppose?
It was no great shock.
Okay.
It was no great shock. Yeah.
So she was overweight, didn't take care of her health as well as
yes.
she could have, and then you also know, statistically speaking,
yes.
heart disease is prevalent.
Yes.
How else did you know?
She was tired a lot. She wasn't her usual bubbly self. Yeah, her voice. Her voice was just not her usual perky, cheery voice. We just thought she was tired.
So there was So there were signs.
There were signs. I didn't know the extent of the signs in terms of the out walking and having shortness of breath. My dad had kept that to themselves, really. And she hadn't been feeling very well a while before it, but said that she was okay. She just hadn't been great. And when I look back now, this was all contributing of it. This was all the signs of what we were leading to.
Because it's not normally there. We've just not consciously been aware of them until we go back and reflect and go, actually, you know what, there were some signs, just didn't put all of them together to be able to see what was truly going on.
Yeah.
And so what was the benefit to you of not knowing?
That I didn't have to, one, try and get involved in a way of what they were doing, how was their lifestyle not serving them. So by not knowing the full extent, then I didn't challenge what I would have perceived to have been unhealthy behaviours or lifestyles. I didn't challenge that way of living for them, so that there was no discord between us for that reason then.
And so what was the benefit then to the ending of her life then, that there was not that discord, or you telling her how she should be living?
Yeah, we didn't have that disconnect between us then, or that she felt judged, or that I felt I was in the right and she was in the wrong, or we didn't have that. There was no conflict or tension between us at all. So the benefit is that I just got to be with her and honour where she was, rather than dwell or hash over a conversation that I'd had or that maybe she was uncomfortable with. There was none of that.
So you got to honour the relationship and honour the connection, and that was more important than telling her how she should live, because that's what you said before. She spent most of her life trying to live according to everyone else's. But in the last, months of her life beforehand, you didn't do that. You just loved her as she was. So can you thank yourself for that?
I can.
And can you thank your mum for being a master of her destiny and a captain of her soul?
Yes.
In the way that she
really can.
Is there anything that you would want to have changed or different? So, Jacqueline, I'm curious. In the Zoom room now.
Yeah.
Who is your mum? Even if you can't see their face and you see a name that you feel connected to, because remember, it's transcending space and time. You don't necessarily need to visually see them either. But if you see a name.
Erica.
Oh, Erica. Oh, hang on, let's unmute you. Here we go.
I knew.
All right, so Erica, you've been chosen to be a surrogate for Jacqueline for her mum. So Jacqueline is a daughter or a daughter-like individual in your life. Well, you have a couple of daughters. So there's a message and a learning in this for you. So Jacqueline, if you had a magic wand, is there anything you'd want your mum to have done differently or you to have done differently with the death of her?
No.
So what is it in your heart that you would love to share with your mum?
It has been such a privilege being your daughter. I look for you everywhere and I see you, and my heart is so full of love for everything that you have taught me. You have been my biggest challenger, my biggest and my most important teacher. And I love you so much. And your legacy of family and love are instilled in me and my children because of you. I can't wait to see you again in the next lifetime. And I love you so, so very much.
Jacqueline, the thread between us is eternal. And all you ever have to do is to close your eyes and you'll see me. Because I don't go anywhere. I don't go anywhere. I'm with you. I've always been with you. From the moment that you came into my life, you awakened something inside of me. It is me that says thank you to you. Because you awakened something in me about being true and authentic. And I'm so happy that you're actually living that. I struggled with that all my life, thinking there was something terribly wrong with me. Not enough. You know, I'm doing it wrong. I should be doing it this way. I should be doing it that way. Or the doubt that I had for me, I never wanted for you. And when I see the certainty that you have about knowing who you are and living that, that fulfilled my greatest wish, because that's all I could ever wish for you. There are many that I have loved, but the love that I have for you is something that is so unique. It is so, so special and precious. You are the one that actually gave me life, even as I was coming to leave it physically. And you also gave me eternal life, because that's what I have now. And that I'm eternally grateful to you for. You were there when I moved into pure love. That's what it is. It's just pure love. And there's nothing to do there. You just be. It is something that everyone will have because we're already that. We just don't know it. The purpose of this physical world is for us to awaken to that. And therefore, everything that we transpire in this life is worth it. It is worth every experience. There is nothing ever missing. It's all there all along. And I am so, so grateful that I can share this with you now. That I can actually speak these words in a way that you can hear the meaning and the message. I will always speak in your heart. You just have to go there. You will listen and hear me. I am there. But this opportunity, I need to thank you for. Because you gave me this gift. It's a gift beyond words. There's no words that will describe it ever. And God bless you. You are a precious, precious angel. I want you to live your life fully, fully as you, who you are. Who you are is all there is, and it is more than enough. Don't waste time comparing yourself to anyone else. That does little justice. It doesn't honor you. Take the courage that's already there in your heart and lead your life the way that you've always wanted to. I'm there right by your side, but you have to do this yourself. I cannot do this for you. And that is my last wish for you, that you do you, because that's what you're in this world to do. You are a beautiful soul. Go and fulfill your destiny, because that is your purpose here. And I love you. I'm always loving you, because I'm with you.
Thank you.
So Jack, thank you, Mum. Thanks, Erica. Jacqueline, so tell me what was the take-home message? How do you feel now?
I feel good. I feel peace. I feel like I've spoken with my mum.
Did she speak a lot? Did your mum speak a lot? Because I've never heard Erica speak that much before.
She did.
Just like
my mum loved to. She was a storyteller, and when she'd start talking in particular about her children, she would wax lyrical, and just like Erica did, and my mum would say, "You do you," like Erica did.
Yeah. So thank you, Erica, for
Thank you.
you for being mum and sharing some wisdom. And thank you, Jacqueline, for your openness and your vulnerability, for sharing your story and your challenge with the group. So team,
Thank you.
thank you.
There's
love to hear from you. What's been your greatest learning, your greatest insight, your realization? So you can share it in the chat section there. Alternatively, you can unmute yourself and share if that was a reflection for you, or something meaningful, something dropped in for you that was perfect. Nicole said it was beautiful and perfect. Bridget said that was magnificent. So thank you for sharing your heart and soul. Man Meat has said thank you, Tanya, Jacqueline, Erica. It was beautiful. Very open-hearted experience, Deborah. Nicole, so much. Love you so much, Jacqueline and Tanya, for such a clear and masterful guidance. Kelly shared, beautiful, thank you. Greatest learning, remember that there is no time and space, that it transcends love. transcends that. Belle shared that it was a beautiful guidance. Tanya and Pamela, she would have loved it. Yeah, extremely powerful.
Tanya, is there a message for Erica in that closing?
Erica. Where's Erica? Thanks, Alex. Great question. Where's Erica?
At first, yes, there was a very strong connection with both my daughters, and one, of course, in particular. But it was more meaningful than that for me. I'm not even sure what I said, but I felt as if I was speaking to humanity. I lost a sense of the physical world, and it was a universal message to humanity. That was what I felt so privileged to be able to do. I did it from a different place. I had just an unbelievable experience. And that's why I was saying thank you, because it was as if somebody was thanking me, but I was the one that was being gifted. And I will treasure this. I will just treasure this moment. So that's my message.
Erica, out of curiosity, first of all, Jacqueline, how old is your mum? Or how old was
She was 65.
65. Oh, you're a little bit off. We don't have to reveal Erica, but we know it's a little bit off. A little bit off. Not
Thank you,
so much, like just for a little.
Tanya. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you.
Not saying anymore.
Thank you.
So I can 65 at heart, says Nicole. Thank you, Nicole, for saving that one. So David said, thank you, Jacqueline, for showing your courage and strength, and you spoke to all of our hearts. And I read somewhere that someone said that they needed to hear that from their mum. Marie said, I needed to hear that from my mum too. So Christian said, thank you, Jacqueline, Tanya, amazing to know you can be at peace and that she had a good death. And Troy said that, thank you, I needed to hear that. I felt it was a message from my grandmother. And Oksana's also shared the same thing. I needed to hear from my grandmothers. As Erica knows, she represents mine. She's like the mum or the grandma in the group. So thank you. So with the session today, you would have noticed the first question I asked was actually a column 12 question, which is being able to see whether there's the other side, because Jacqueline's language shared with us in the very beginning, if you were listening intently, she had said that it was not knowing and the constantly having to ring and to call. So we looked at column 12 to be able to see, well, where did she know? And also at the shock as well, well, where did she also know? So we looked at breaking a label of her perception or misperception around knowing and not knowing, and where was she actually aware versus not aware. We also looked at the benefits of the way that her mum passed, which is column 10, and the drawbacks, which is column 14, had it been a different way. We looked at that column as well. And then at the very end, we look at some of the benefits towards her for not actually making, well, that would be really the benefits of not knowing or not noticing the fact that she was challenged with her health, and the benefits to her relationship with her mum. What was really beautiful was to be able to see that even in the moment that your body is passing and that you can't move and that you can't breathe, that your values will be fulfilled in that moment too. That you'll have a moment, whether you love learning, you'll have a moment of learning in that space, or if you have a high value of family, you'll attract your family right there to you to be able to pass in that way. So I find that incredibly interesting in human behavior, that we fulfill it in the last breaths as well. So thank you, team, for coming along and joining in on the hot seat. If you loved and you found this interesting and you'd love to know more about the Demartini Method and would love to come and join the Maximum Growth membership, what we do is every single week we apply 2 columns of the Demartini Method. We do a demonstration and doing for an hour at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday, Sydney time, and 7 p.m. in the evening. Same session, different, same content, different conversation, because it's a different group. So you can come to both sessions or one session, and we apply 2 columns every single week. So you get an opportunity to really dive deep into the quality of the questions that you ask. It's going to determine about the quality of life you have. But what I love to also share with you is the quality of answers that you actually provide also help with the quality of life that you provide and that you create with your life. So I love to be able to teach you how to answer the quality questions, but also provide quality answers to have a balance between your thinking and feeling, and get really present with moments. So you're not just all up here with the process, that it's a body and mind connection. So if it's something that you'd love to do, then Edward will put in the chat section for you, or below, which will be the link to join up. It's free for the first month. So if you'd like to dip your toe in and just go, you know what, there's something intriguing about this session today that I'd love to get to know more, or you know someone who would also love to and could benefit from coming along and learning, then please just come and join us for a month. And if you love it, stay with us. It's $98.95 every month after, no contracts. And then if you don't, that's okay too. You can at least come and learn for a month with us. That would be amazing to have you part of the group. So thank you everyone for coming and participating. Again, thank you, Jacqueline, for sharing your thoughts. And for everyone else who also put their application in for the hot seat. And Erica, thank you for being our surrogate mum. So have a beautiful rest of the evening or day, and I will see you at the next perfect time.